No. Okay, I know some, because see, I talked to some people over the phone and they told me they didn't have a prayer partner. Okay, so who does not have a prayer partner? Raise your hand. Okay, we got 1, 2, 3, 4. Huh? I would, we would rather the person be here, but you can have another somewhere else too, but here. Okay, who does not have a prayer partner? Okay, stand up, stand up, stand up, stand up so I can see you. Stand up so I can see you. Okay, now look around, and today, today, do not leave here without a prayer partner. Now, that doesn't mean the person got to be your prayer partner forever, okay? But it does mean that you leave here with a prayer partner, and if you find that you know a week later, 2 weeks later, you really don't hit it off, then you can switch to someone else. It's okay. At least have somebody to start off with. Okay, so you can look around and pick them out. Okay, pick them out. All right, pick them out. Now I know, like I said, you don't have to. We really want a prayer partner here in this church. Everybody should have a prayer partner. Everybody. We talked about that last week. Everybody should have a prayer partner. Okay. All right. So look around and don't leave here without a prayer partner. Now, if you do, it's because you chose to. Okay. If you leave here today, you're choosing to do that because there's enough people around here who have a prayer partner. Okay. There's always, you can always call me or WeChat me or WhatsApp me, no problem. But we really want everyone to have a prayer partner. Okay? Any questions there? Any questions there? We good? Everybody knows. All right, okay, good. All right, am I good, Steve? All right, good. All righty, okay, contentment. The lesson objective. Lesson objective is to, by the end of this lesson, we will have a deeper understanding of the biblical commitment, what biblical commitment means, okay, so that we can use that in our life. Okay. And if at any time that I say something you don't understand or you have a question, just always stop me right now and let's talk about it. Okay? Don't leave here and not have a good understanding. Now you don't have to agree with me. I'm not saying you got to agree with me, but I am saying that at least you understand what I'm trying to say. Okay? All right. Scripture. Philippians 4:11-13. Not that I speak in respect of want, for I have learned in whatsoever state I am, therewith to be content. I know both how to be abased and I know how to be abound. Abased means to be without. Abased means to be without. And I know how to be abound, which means to have plenty. Okay? All right. And this is Paul speaking. Now, you see in red, the word is learn. Learn means that it's not something that you automatically know how to do. It's not something automatic. That's something that comes with you at birth. It's something that we learn over time. And when we learn something, it's intentional usually. Okay, and I'm asking us to intentionally understand what contentment is and understand why I think it's so important that we understand it. And contentment is regardless. Regardless. Can you look at definitions? Okay. The dictionary definition. Someone want to read that for us, please?
Okay, according to standard dictionaries, contentment is defined as a state of happiness and satisfaction, a feeling of being pleased and satisfied with what one has.
Being pleased and satisfied with what one has, a state of happiness and satisfaction. Okay, that's what Webster's dictionary say, or one of those other dictionaries. Okay, Now let's see what the Bible definition is. Bible definition. Okay, someone want to read that for us, please.
In the Bible, contentment is described as the state of satisfaction and peace that comes from trusting in God's provision rather than relying on external circumstances or material worth. It is an inner sense of sufficiency that arises from dependence on God. Recognizing that He moves and means according to His will. Contentment in the Bible is closely linked to the faith, gratitude, and obedience, and it emphasizes finding satisfaction in God alone.
Amen. Now, the two definitions are very similar, because it says what? It says that it's a state of satisfaction and peace. The state of satisfaction and peace. And that's vitally important because we all want to be satisfied. We all want to be at peace. Okay? And so that's what this is. Right? And it says that it's closely linked with faith, gratitude, and obedience. So you cannot have contentment if you don't have faith. And you can't be content if you're not grateful. Okay? And it emphasizes finding satisfaction in God alone. Okay. Contentment is so important because it can keep us out of trouble and it can get us in trouble when we don't have it. Okay. I had a friend of mine, and she and I was talking one day, and she said that when she was younger, her husband built a house for her. And the day that they moved into the house, first day they moved into the house, they were walking around the house, they were happy, and she looked out the window and she saw a house on the hill that was a little bigger than hers. And she said, "Oh, I like that house." And then she turned around and looked at her husband, and she was devastated because her husband was hurt. Why was he hurt? Because she wasn't satisfied with the house that he bought her. She was already looking at someone else's house. How did that make him feel? And she understood that, and she tried to make up for it. Okay. But when we're not grateful for what we have, then that's a problem. And I believe that when we're not grateful for what we have, then God's not happy with us, just like He wasn't happy with her. Why isn't God happy with us? Because God says, "I'm going to give you everything you need." You know what He said? I'm going to take care of you. Okay. And when we say, "I'm not satisfied with what I got," I'm telling God, "I'm not satisfied with what you gave me." That's exactly what I'm saying. That's a problem. That's a problem. Doesn't mean that you can't want more. You're always grateful for what you got. And when you're not grateful for what you got, then that's a problem. That's a big problem. And so let's look at some examples. Let's look at some examples here. Paul was in prison, but Paul wrote the scripture we just read. He says that I've learned that he wasn't always content. So we're not always content. It means I have to learn to be content. And he says, and I've learned to be content when I got something and when I don't have something. Do we understand what we're talking about there? Okay, if you don't understand, talk to me now. Because it's difficult. It's a challenge. There was a comedian, I forgot his name, Sinbad, that's his name, Sinbad, which you may or may not know. Okay. But he said as long as he stayed in his house, he was okay. No problem. But when he went into his neighbor's house, he had a problem because he saw what his neighbor had and he started wanting what his neighbor had rather than being satisfied with what he had. Could we do that? Could we do that? We're not grateful for what we have. We're always looking at what someone else got. And we want what someone else has. Because we're not grateful for what we have. Contentment means that you are grateful for what you have. Again, it doesn't mean that you don't want more. But it does mean that you're satisfied and happy with what you got. You're satisfied and happy with what you got. That's contentment. Okay? All right. So we got Paul who's in jail in Rome. And Paul says, even though I'm in jail, I'm content. I'm happy. I'm at peace. Doesn't matter. Whether I'm free or in jail, I'm still content. That's what Paul says. Okay. Let's look at another example. Psalms 23, 1-3. Can everyone read that together, please? Can everyone? One of the first Bible type verses that I learned as a child. Okay, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. David, what is David saying? David saying that God is in control. And David says, I'm happy, I'm satisfied with what I got. I'm content with what I got. He says that I shall not want. See, when you're content, you don't want anything else. When you're content, you're happy with what you got. You don't need to want anything else. Okay? He says that he makes me lie down in green pastures and he restores my soul. Okay? David is saying that he is satisfied with God. He's happy with God. He's content with God. No matter what he was going through, he was able to say that. Okay? That's what we talk about, content. It's being satisfied with what we got. It's being satisfied with what we got. Okay, let's look at another example. Go ahead. The widow. The widow's an offering. Okay. The widow in this story, in the New Testament, came into the temple and she had 2 pence. And she took her 2 pence and put it in the offering. Some people preach that as offering. I don't preach offering here. We don't ever preach offering. But what we do preach is being content and believing in God. She says, this is all I got. I'm content with giving it because I know that whatever I need, God is going to provide. She wasn't worried. She didn't have ants. She wasn't having anxiety, anything like that. She felt comfortable that whatever she did, that God had her back. And that's what content is, understanding that no matter where we are, what we're doing, no matter what the circumstances, God has got us. The Bible says is to be joyful always. It doesn't say be joyful when you're happy. It says be joyful always. Sometimes things are not going to go the way you want them to go. But that doesn't change the fact you're still supposed to be joyful. That joy I have, the world didn't give it to me, the world can't take it away. Okay? Joy, contentment. Okay? That's so important, so important. Now, what happens when you don't have contentment? Adam and Eve. This is going to bring us to the central part of this lesson. Adam and Eve were not satisfied. God gave them a whole garden, gave them all these trees, all this fruit. And God said, you got it all except for one. Just except for one, but you can have everything else. And Adam and Eve were not content. They were not satisfied. And because they weren't satisfied, they sinned. And because of that sin, that created a problem for you and me today. We could be in the Garden of Eden right now if Adam and Eve had just been contented. But they weren't. They weren't. Now, understand is that when I said earlier about, I think this is a very important lesson, is because I believe that the lack of contentment is what creates sin. You know, when you plant something, it has a root, and if you want to kill it, you can't kill it from the top. You got to kill it from the root, right? Okay. So if you want to kill sin, you got to kill it from the root. I believe the root is the lack of contentment. And I'm going to try to share that as we continue to go through the lesson today. Okay? Yes.
Is this applied to Cain and Abel also?
Yes. It applies to Cain and Abel also. Yeah. Lack of contentment?
Yes.
Yes. Cain was not content with just giving God something. He thought that God had done something for Abel that didn't do for him that he wanted. And because he wanted it, he killed Abel. Okay? Yeah. But that's a good question. Because again, I believe that contentment is the cause of all sin. Not just one, but all. And I'm going to try to show that as we continue to go. Okay, continue. Israelites were not content. God had took them out of Egypt, took them through the Red Sea, you know, had annihilated the Egyptian army. But what? They weren't satisfied. They kept complaining. They complained and they complained and they complained. They were never, ever satisfied. Now, because they were satisfied, what happened? Moses lost his opportunity to go into the promised land. And people blame Moses because Moses struck the rock. But why did Moses strike the rock? Because he was angry. People kept complaining. He said, I'll show you pain. God said, talk to the rock. But his anger management got in the way. His anger management got in the way because the people weren't content. And they kept complaining. And every time they complained, Moses got angrier and angrier. God got angry. And God says, okay, I'm tired of y'all. I'll get rid of y'all. Start all over again. And Moses said, no, God, you can't do that. Give them another chance. And God did. Okay. But they were not content. Created a problem. Caused their death. Caused their death because they were not content with what God had done. Again, contentment, lack of contentment can create all kind of problems for us. Okay. Next. Achan was not content. God says, let's go into battle, and whatever the enemy has, don't take it. Destroy it. Achan says, no, I want this. He wasn't satisfied. He took it. And because he did that, the children of Israel lost the battle. They lost the battle because he did not obey God. And then Joshua said, well, go, wait a minute, Lord. You told me I was going to win all my battles. Why didn't I win this one? And God said, because there's somebody in your tent that was not content, was not satisfied with what I given him. He wanted to take what someone else had. Was not content with what I gave him. He wants to take something else. And because he did that, they lost the battle. And as a result, Achan and his family died because of lack of contentment. Lack of contentment. Okay? All right. So, going forward, key points. Key points. Contentment in God's timing. Both Paul experienced in prison and the widow's offering understood the importance of God in this process. Okay? All right. And it applies to us today because we want something, we want it right now. We're not content with what we got because there's something else that we want and we want it now. And we'll do whatever we need to do to get it, thinking that that's what we're supposed to do rather than waiting on God. God has a plan. God has a plan for each one of us. We just got to wait on the Lord and be of good courage. Okay? Yes.
I would like to know what the difference between being content and being comfortable in your comfort zone. For example, back home, you meet a brother in Jesus, let's say a brother at church, who is just content with his situation. His financial is not really moving, it's just like there, and he want to marry you. And then they will tell you, just be content. It's God's grace or God's will. So what's the difference between being content that way and wanting more because we need more?
I was waiting for somebody to ask that question. I was waiting for it. Content means being happy with what you got, but it doesn't mean that you don't want to get more. Understand that now. See, and this is where people misunderstand it sometimes. Okay. And you, who someone's asking to get married or want to marry or whatever, they asking you to be content. Are they asking you to be content because they don't want any more? Or are they asking you to be content because be happy with what we got? Understand the difference? Let me say that again. I can be content and be happy with what I got, but it doesn't mean that I don't strive to get more. But if I'm not happy with what I got, I'm not content with what I got, then whatever I'm going to get, I'm not going to be happy with that either. I'm not going to be happy with that either. You understand that? Is that you have a car, and here's a car that runs a little faster, and you say, well, I want this car that runs a little faster. So you go out and get the car that runs a little faster. What happens? The next day, you see a car that's running a little faster, you want a car that runs a little faster. You're never satisfied. Case in point, and you may not recognize this, but you can ask your parents, maybe. Okay. People complain at work that they don't make enough money. Okay, so they ask the boss for a raise, and the boss gives them a raise. You know what the question is the next day? When am I going to get my next raise? That's the question. The question, it isn't, let me be thankful for the raise I got and live with it while I work on the other. They want to know, when am I going to get my next raise? because they're not content, they're not happy with what they got. And it creates a problem. It creates a problem. There are many marriages that are broken up because of people not being content. And I'm not saying that anybody here should just marry anyone, regardless of their financial condition. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying though is that don't get into the situation of saying I'm going to marry someone because they have this, and because they don't have this, I'm not going to be happy. Because as soon as you get this, it's going to be something else. And if you're not happy with that, it's going to be something. It's always going to be something else. If you're not content, it's always going to be something else. Always. So you got to learn. And Paul said you have to learn to be content, because it's not normal. We're not taught to be content. We're taught to always want more. Okay. You're in school. Okay. And you're looking around at people in your classroom, and instructor gives a test, and you got a 96. Somebody else got a 98, and somebody else got 100. Are you satisfied with your 96? No, you say you are, but you really aren't, because you want the 98. And if you get the 98, you want the 100. You want to be the best. You want to be number one. Everybody can't be number one. You know, when you walk across the stage with your diploma in your hand, your degree in your hand, nobody said she's number 2, she's number 4, she's number 8. It said it's 88, and I'm 88. I don't need to be 1. I just need to be 88. So I get my degree. Okay? Okay. Be happy with what we got. Do the best we can with what we got, and know that God's in control. God has a plan. But we have to be happy with what we got. That's content. Does that answer your question in a roundabout way? Okay. All right. Now, let's look at some other applications. Trusting in God for provision. The Israelites grumbled and created a problem. Content is an act of faith, believing that God will supply whatever we need. Whatever I have, that's all I need. God has already provided for me. Okay? I don't need other things. Okay, I might want, but see, we have to understand that there's a difference between want and need. There's a difference between want and need. Okay, see, some people eat chicken. Some people eat fish. I just want to eat. Okay, I just want to eat. I'm not gonna get hung up on what it is. Okay, now I might like it, but I'm not gonna get hung up on it. Okay, just gonna get hung up on eating. Okay, all right. Okay. Okay. Examples of how lack of contentment will lead to sin. And this is really what we want to make sure we understand today. Lack of contentment leads to sin. Why does someone steal? Usually. Because of what? Right, they're not satisfied with what they got. They want something more, want something different. Oh, she said what they don't have. They always have. They may not have what they want. They have. Okay, but they have the ability to get it. Okay. Now, I mean, there's always that one circumstance where somebody don't have nothing, and they always say, well, I stole because I didn't have it. The reality is that most people steal because they don't have what they stole. And they want what they stole most times. But not all the time. Okay. I mean, there are exceptions to every rule. But usually when you see something in the store You don't have the money for it, but you want it. So you steal it.
Yes, that's why Jesus said we should ask on him and he's going to give it.
Amen. Amen. Just that simple. Just that simple. You know, and again, what's come from lack of contentment. I'm content with what I got. I see this over here, and I say, it looks good. One day you might want to buy that. But right now, isn't the time. So therefore, I need to slide away. Not commit a sin because I'm lack of contentment. Not to commit a sin because I'm lack of contentment. Stealing, it comes from being not content. Where it comes from. Okay? Now, another cheating. Why do people cheat on exams? Okay? Huh? She said they don't know the lesson. Why they don't know the lesson? They had an opportunity to learn it. Everybody in the classroom has the same opportunity to learn. Now, whether you choose to or not, that's up to you. Everybody has an opportunity. You know something? My students who I teach, they have my WeChat all year. After the final exam, everybody WeChatting me. Well, they had my WeChat from day one. Why are they WeChatting me now after the final exam? Huh? That's right. They had an opportunity, but they chose not to take advantage of the opportunity until, and now they want grace and mercy. Okay? All right. But the point I'm making though is that people cheat, again, going back to what we said earlier, somebody wants to be number one in class. They want to be high. They want to be thought of as being smart or intelligent. Okay? They don't want to understand that I'm not good in everything. Those things I'm not quite good in. I'm gonna struggle in it, but I'm gonna still get through it. Okay. Okay. Cheating comes from not being satisfied with what we got. Okay. Another is the other is I think if I remember correctly, yeah, unfaithfulness in marriage. Unfaithfulness in marriage. Unfaithfulness in marriage comes from one thing and one thing only. Not being satisfied with what you got. You're looking over here. Looking over there. And why are you looking over there? Not content. Not content. My wife is the best cook in the world. Okay? Now, I don't know whether that's true or not. Okay. But as far as I'm concerned, it is. Because I'm not going to anybody else's house trying to find out if they can cook better. Okay. 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 I'm just gonna say, honey, that's good. Okay. All right. Okay. But I'm not trying to compare her to anyone else. Okay. Because I know, and we talked about this before, I know that there are some things she does very well and some things she doesn't do quite as well. But the things she doesn't do quite as well don't come close to the things she does well. The things she does well overlies that altogether. Okay? And God has decided for me that there's some things that I'm lacking, and she makes up for it. She makes up for it. Okay? So I have to learn to be content. Okay? I have to learn to be content. And I find myself trying to do that from time to time. Like I say, my wife, the best cook in the world. Sometimes she'll cook something that I don't exactly like. Okay. But she's the best cook. That's right. That's exactly right. I may not exactly like it, but she's the best cook. Okay. All right. But you got to be content. Got to be content. Because if you're always looking, you're never going to find what you're looking for. Believe me, young people, you're always looking, you're never going to find what you're looking for. Because as soon as you have one thing, you can be looking somewhere else. and you can be looking somewhere else. You're never going to be satisfied when you're always looking. I had a friend of mine, he said something that was very interesting. He said that what he did was he would see a female and she had a dress on that he thought was pretty. You know what he did? He'd go buy the dress and put it on his wife. That's what he did. Okay? Because it wasn't female, it was the dress. And he made sure he made that distinction. He liked the dress. So he buys his wife the dress. So he look at her and say, honey, you look good. Okay? Being content. Being content. It gets you in trouble when you're not content. Again, by not being content causes you to sin. Causes me to sin when I'm not content. Okay? Now, financial hardship. Young people, please learn this. Okay, almost two things here. I'm gonna make sure you understand. You get married. What do? When you get married, you want to have a big wedding, right? You got to have a big wedding. You got to have this white gown with the bell, the long tail. It's got to look very pretty, right? Right. Sure. Am I right? Right? Okay. It costs money. It costs money. Okay. And I'm not saying that anything wrong with it, but don't spend all your money on one day. That one day, it's just one day. You got the rest of your life. So spend money, but spend it wisely. Okay, I'm not saying don't do that. Okay, but I'm saying don't do it to the extent that you can't afford it. If you can afford it, fine, no problem. If you can't afford it, don't do it. Don't ask your soon-to-be husband to spend all this money on something, and then the next day the gown is where? Where's the gown? Nobody wears a gown except once. Okay? All right. So don't do that. Okay? Don't do that. Don't get into financial. Going back to what I said about cars. You can buy a car because, this is an example, only example. You can buy a car that costs $100, or you can buy a car that costs $500. Okay? The speed limit is 100 miles an hour. The car that was spent for $100, it goes 100 miles an hour. The car that costs $500, it goes 100 miles an hour. Which one you gonna buy? Because you can't get there any faster. Can't get there any faster. Okay? Don't get hung up in buying something because you want to be like everybody else. You're not content with what you got because someone else has got something that looks a little better. It makes no sense because if you buy this for 500 and it drives fast, you get a ticket. And then you got to cost some more money. Just get the one that's 100 and go to the speed limit and be happy. But we do that. We will buy a house. We want the biggest house. Only you and your husband, you got to have 5 bedrooms. Why? Why? What you 5 bedrooms for? You don't need 5 bedrooms. Okay? Now, if somebody's coming to visit you, you cheaper going to put them in a hotel room. That's cheaper than having a house a room that you don't need. But the only reason why you want this room is because you want to show off. You want to have the biggest house on the street. Okay? Not being content with what God is giving you and being grateful. And if someone says something, he says, God gave it to me. Now, what you got to say about it? Being content, okay? Yes.
What if you have money for someone and then you are Jim and you use that money that is not yours?
I'm sorry, say again?
If you have money for a person, or for example, you gave me your money to keep,
Mhm.
and then I'm Jim and I use that money you gave to me.
That's a sin. That's a sin. What's wrong? You lied. You lied because you told me you're gonna give it back to me. Okay, so that's a sin. And the second sin is you stole. You stole, okay? Because I didn't give it to you, you took it. You don't give it back to me, you stole.
And the timing too.
That's right. Okay, you lied and okay, either one of two things. You intended to give it back to me and you weren't able to, then that's a lie. Okay, okay, and you could give it back to me, but you decided to do something else with it. That's stealing. You're stealing from me. Okay? And why do you do that? Because you're not content with what you got. You know, something that you want that you don't need, but you want it because you're not content with what you got. So that's stealing. Okay? All right, okay. All right. So don't put yourself in these financial hardships. You know, your credit is bad. You can't buy a car, you can't buy a house, you can't do anything because you tried to get something that you couldn't afford, and you're only doing it so you can show off. Okay, that's the only reason. Okay, God is giving you something, and you chosen not to accept what God is giving you because you want something more. You just keep on living. If God wants you to have it, He'll provide for you to have the next thing. Okay, but be happy and grateful for what you do have. Okay, and then mental and physical problems such as anxiety and depression. When you have a financial problem, it begins to get in the, you can't sleep at night. How am I going to pay it? Somebody's going to knock on the door and ask me for payment. I don't have it. Okay. And then it becomes to be a mental and physical problem for you because you sin. See, going back to what I said, this is not being content. See, anxiety is wanting something and you don't know whether that's going to get it or not. Okay. That's where anxiety comes from. If you don't want it, you don't have to worry about whether or not you're going to get it or not. And if you get it, great, grand, terrific. But you don't worry about it. Okay. So you have to be content. Have to be content with what you got. Okay. Okay. Contentment is a spiritual discipline. A spiritual discipline. Going back to what I said earlier, is that content itself is not something that we grew up with. Everyone wants more. Everyone wants more. And I as a parent want my son to have more than me. That's kind of a natural feeling. But I have to understand that that's a problem. Because it may be that my son isn't working as hard as I did, so he can't have what I have. Because he makes certain choices in life. Okay? Or it may be that I have a certain talent that he doesn't have. So I'm putting too much pressure on him and not allowing him to just be happy with what he's got. That's my fault when I do that. Okay. So we want to be content. We want to be content. But understand it's something that you learn. You learn to be content. Another example of not being content is, and I know no one else does this except me. okay? But look in your closet and look at your dresses. Look at your pants and your shirts. How many can you wear at one time? How many can you wear at one time? 5, 6, 1. That's right. Unless it's cold, then you maybe put on 2. Okay, but yeah, 1. Okay, all right. But we're not satisfied because what happened? You see her with one on today. You see her with that today. Church. Oh, that's a pretty coat. I gotta have it. And do you need it? No, but you go buy it. Oh, I like that dress. Where did you buy it from? Now you gotta go buy it. Okay, and then you get it, and you may wear it once, and then what happens to it? It sits in the closet, taking up room in the closet, but you don't wear it anymore. Why don't you wear it anymore? Why don't you wear it anymore? There's a lot of different reasons why we don't, but none of them are good reasons. You know, but my wife and I have those conversations sometimes. You know, I can talk about her. She's not shit right now. Okay, all right. But she'll be looking at Tabo, and she'll be looking at these things, and she said, "You like that?" I said, "Yeah, I like that." She said, "You want me to buy it?" I said, "No." Well, you don't like it? Well, I like it. I got a coat. I don't need another coat. Okay. Now, if you find something you want to buy that I don't have that I need, we can have a conversation. But I'm not going to buy something that I don't need because I like to travel. So I like to take my money and spend it on traveling, not spending my money on another coat that I'm not going to wear because I already got a coat. Make sense? Okay. Again, be content with what we got. There's some spiritual reasons for that, but it's some practical reasons for just being content with what you got. Some very practical things, okay? All right. Oh, now, one last thing here, very quickly. You go to the buffet. Go to the buffet. You look at all that food over there. And what do? You go pile up the plate. Do you eat it all? Why not? Why'd you pile up the plate? Because you paid? Not the right reason. But I understand. I do understand. Okay, but so what you gotta, this is a practical thing. What you gotta do is you gotta learn to put what's on your plate, eat it. You want more? Go back and get it. You don't have to pile it up because it's not like they gonna tell you can't come back. You know, you can go back as many times as you want to, but you don't need to waste food. You don't need to waste food, or you don't need to be eating so much that you gain weight, and then tomorrow you said I'm way too much. Okay, all right, all right. You know, yes.
So do we like say there is a good content and bad one, or it's just like not to be content? Like, because if, for example, someone can read Bible, know verses, and I just want to be like, I want to be like this person. Like I'm being content. Like I even want to pass that person, like to know more past that person. Is that
There's no such thing as good lack of contentment. You're either happy with what you got, or you're not happy with what you got. And it's what I said earlier, and I'm coming back to that again because we're going to finish up here in a minute, is that if you're not happy with what you got, you're not happy with God. Plain and simple. If you're not happy with what you got, you're not happy with God. Because you're telling God that whatever you've given me, whatever you've done for me, I'm not satisfied. That's what you're saying. Make sure you understand that's what you're saying. You're saying you're not satisfied with what God has done. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't want more. You know, you have the prayer of Jabez. Prayer of Jabez says, God, give me more. Okay. But the question is why? Why do you want more? Okay. Why do you want more? You want more just because you want more? Or you want more because you want to do more for God? Okay. You know, and do you want to share God's blessings and God's grace with what you got more of? So there's nothing wrong with wanting more, but you got to understand why you want more. And for us, most of the time, it's not because we want to do it for God. It's something that we want. Something that we want. Okay. And we look at what someone else got, and we want what they have and more because we're comparing ourselves to them. And you don't know what they had to go through to get to what they got. You have no clue as to what they had to go through to get what they got, or what you can. And so you can't want it. You know, you need to step back and say, God, if it's your will and I get it eventually, okay, but I'm not going to do anything that's ungodly to get it. Yes.
Yeah, I have two questions. You said like cheating is lack of contentment. Sometimes, like some husbands or wives, they will say like, I'm happy with this person I'm with, like everything is fine, I am happy, but they still go outside, they still cheat. If you are married with such person, how can you help them do better if they say they are already happy and they got everything? Then my second question is, what is the difference between being proud and showing off? Thank you.
Okay. Two things. Okay, I'll try to answer. First, is it just because someone says something, don't mean they know what they're saying. Okay. Peter told Christ, I'm going with you wherever. And when they had the chance to do it, Peter blew it. Okay. So just because someone says I'm happy, if they really mean that, then they're not going anywhere else. They really aren't. If they're going somewhere else, it's because they aren't happy. Okay. That's the reality. That's real. If you're happy with what you got, you're not going to do anything wrong to get something different. You're going to rejoice what you got. Okay, so that's first. So so first you got to be truthful. All right. And your second question was, there's no difference between pride. Pride is a sin. That's proud is a sin. It's just a sin. Pride is a sin. Proud and pride is the same thing. You know something. Wait a minute. You know something. Don't let the world fool you. Please. Let the world fool you. Hold on. Don't let the world fool you because they change up words to make you feel like it's okay. Okay? It ain't okay. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't be proud. Okay? But I shouldn't know you're proud. I shouldn't know you're proud. I should not know you're proud. You can be proud. I can do something and I'm happy. I'm glad I did it. I don't need to tell you I did it. Because you don't have to let me know. Why do you have to let me now, understand now. There's nothing wrong with your mother saying, or father saying, I'm proud of you. You went to school, you went to college, you got your degree. They're proud, not me. It's not me being proud, it's them being proud of me. That's okay. If I stand up on the corner and a sign that says, I graduated, I'm proud of myself. Pat me on the back. That's wrong. That's showing off. That's showing off. Okay? So understand there's nothing wrong with you telling me you're proud of me. Okay? Because you're the one being proud, not me. You understand the difference I'm trying to say there? Do it in private. Do it in private. Okay. Do it in private. Do it in private. You know, because there's nothing wrong with being happy and grateful for what you've done. But put things in perspective. You got there not because of you, but for God, because of God. Okay, so if you're gonna stand on the corner and say, God got me this degree, I'm okay with that. Okay? But if you're gonna stand on the corner and say, I got this degree, I got a problem with that. That's the difference. Okay? Now, I tell people all the time, boast on God. We ought to boast on God. We ought to say that. I should be able to say to the person, God did this and God did that and God did this. Testifying. Not I did this, I did that. God did this. God did that. So there's nothing wrong with being proud in the sense of understanding it's not you. It's not you. It's God. God gave you a certain talent. God gave you certain gifts that allow you to do what you're doing. Okay? And just like he gave it to you, he can take it away. Just like he gave it to you, he can take it away. All right? So we've got to understand is that there's nothing wrong, again, with being proud of what we accomplished, but make sure we understand that it's not me. Okay. Bible says what? That I can do all things through Christ, who strengthens me. It didn't say I can do all things. It says through Christ. There's a caveat there. That's why I talk about the world. See, the world will have you believing that you did it. That's what the world wants you to say that. That's what the world wants you to say. The world wants to say, just like I did it, you can do it. That's what the world wants you to say. You should say, just like I believe in God and God got me through, I want you to believe in God and God will get you through. Maybe? Okay. Any questions? Okay. Yes, you got, okay, go ahead.
Okay, so in conclusion, we can say, as for the ladies, we are far from contentment because we put some makeup, we put some fake wigs. So we can say, as for the ladies, we are far from it, right? No, it's contentment.
Yeah, I mean, and, you know, I mean, again, being practical, let's make sure that I'm not trying to take it to the nth degree and, you know, tell you everything's wrong. I'm not doing that. But I'm saying that when you make a decision, like we talked about the last time, when you make a decision to do something, understand why you're making that decision. Understand why you're making that decision and make sure it's a wise decision. Okay? So I'm not saying, I'm not trying to be this
To go in deep.
change you who you are, anything like that. I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to make sure that you understand that everything that we do in life, the consequences for it. Okay. And that when we are lack contentment and start doing something that we shouldn't do, that's non-biblical, we are in fact crossing the line. And we need to back off that and say that's not something I should be able to do. I have. Okay. I'm talking about biblical versus non-biblical. Okay. Okay. Sin versus non-sin. Okay, and I'm not suggesting make up anything like that. I'm not one way or the other. Okay, okay. But I am saying is that, you know, that you be, don't make decisions that are because you want to be like everybody else, or you want more than what God's given you, and make bad decisions. Don't do that. Okay? All right, we gotta get out of here. Okay, all right, anything else? As a reminder, make sure you get the prayer partner. Make sure you get the prayer partner before you leave here today. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Joe.
I think we can all be on our feet and pray. Let's pray, and then we can make a circle. But before we pray, I'd like to ask if we have any new visitor. If it's your first time here, please, would you mind raising up your hand? Oh, can you please tell us your name and your country and maybe your university as well?
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Godwin Tano, and I'm from Liberia. And I'm attending Shandong Finance University. Thank you.
All right, good afternoon, brethren. I'm Sister Kebet Diestanu. I'm from Liberia and I'm attending the Shandong University of Economics and Finance.
Thank you. Please, church, let us take 1 minute to give them the Jinan hug.